Welcome to Westport Farms. It's my favorite time of year. It's tomato season, and my garden is exploding with tomatoes, so I'm thinking of any way I can to use them up as quickly as possible. And one of my favorite dishes is a tomato tart. So that is what I am making today, and I'll try and get a couple good slicers here. There's 2 or 3 tricks to making this. The first is you don't want your tomatoes having too much moisture left in them because that will make the crust soggy. So your first step, about an hour before you do anything else, is to slice the tomatoes you're going to use and then salt and pepper them on either side and place them into a colander where some of that liquid can drain out. Half hour even after you salt these would be fine, but you want to get most of the moisture out. I salt them on both sides. Salting the other side. A little pepper. And then into the colander they go. And I try and line the colander walls as much as I can up high so they're not all overlapped and they're freer to drip out. Place it in the sink because of all the liquid that's going to come out, and that'll sit for about an hour. This is a very simple crust. It's essentially the same base as you would use for a fruit pie, except it has no sugar. So I start with 1.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then this is a stick and a quarter of butter. It's 10 tablespoons of butter cut into cubes. The butter goes into the flour salt mixture. And then you have about 2 or 3 minutes of standing here, literally just mashing this into the flour. So you just squeeze the butter into the flour. It takes at least a couple of minutes, but that's all there is to it. You cannot mess this up, and you will get a very, very flaky crust out of this. Okay, we're almost there. I've incorporated all the butter, and it's not quite grainy, but this is the texture you want. There's not a lot of loose flour. There shouldn't really be much loose flour at all. And then to this, you add about 6 tablespoons of ice cold water with no ice. And that's going to, it could be 7 tablespoons. It's never less than 6. But depending upon how you've leveled your flour, cup going in, humidity, etc. You just want enough water in there so this comes together into kind of like a shaggy dough. You don't want it too moist, you don't want it too dry. Toss it around just till it comes together. This has come together nicely. Not too dry, not too wet, and that's all you want out of this. I flatten it and I put it in the refrigerator for at least an hour. You can make this a day or 2 beforehand. Put it either in a plastic trash bag that does not have any perfumes as part of it, or a Ziploc bag works very well too. And the Ziploc bag, you can pre-flatten it. So when you start to roll it out later, it's already halfway there. That's it, into the fridge for at least an hour. So, after you roll it out, I'm using an 11-inch Tart pan here, but after you roll out, you could roll it out free-form and just make it like a galette and do what I'm about to do in the Tart pan as a free-form thing, fold the edges over, pleat it, probably put an egg wash around it, and it would work just as well. So the first thing we do here is we cover the base of the tart with Dijon mustard, and not only adding a ton of flavor, it waterproofs the crust, if you will. Again, trying to keep this liquid from the tomatoes any way you can away from the crust. So I'm almost done here. You don't want it too thick, but you do want to make sure most of it's covered. Over that, I'm going to place a layer of shredded Gruyere cheese which will melt, of course, in the oven, creating yet another barrier between the tomato liquid and the crust. And then this is a mixture of sliced shallots, thyme, minced garlic, olive oil, salt, and pepper. It's just to flavor it up a little bit. Toss it, let it sit maybe overnight as well, let the flavors meld. We cover it with a little bit of that. And then, these were tomatoes that I did earlier. These are all drained out. Then you shingle the tomatoes over the tart. Okay, so those are shingled. We're finished there. There's just a couple of finishing touches, one of which I should have pulled out already is a little Parmigiano Reggiano to be grated across the top. Okay, after that is done, we'll finish it with a little drizzle of olive oil. And a little salt and pepper. And into the oven that goes at 375 for about 45 or 50 minutes. So here is the finished tart. It's baked for about 50 minutes and has cooled for an hour. So we'll take it out and slice it. You can see what it looks like. This makes a great lunch with a salad. It's a great appetizer for a dinner party. It's absolutely delicious. And if we can get a look at it, the crust is nice and crispy on the bottom. It's flaky, and it's a beautiful tomato tart.